How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another Counterside video. I have no plan with this one. I finished End of the Maze Part 2. I finished the story. Didn't stream it because of some technical difficulties on my end, but I'm just flabbergasted. It was so good. The story was what I wanted and more. It's amazing. It's so amazing. And I want to implore that if you haven't read the story to Counterside, main story, side stories, all of it, you need to read it. It really is good. I mean, no, it's not going to be anything groundbreaking, I guess, right? That's not what you're going to get. But I think, all things considered, this is quality story and well worth experiencing. Heck, you might even consider it groundbreaking after all. To me, it's definitely one of the best, especially as far as mobile games go. And it's pretty consistent. Like, it doesn't leave too much that it doesn't eventually explain or anything like that, I guess. Like, I love the story, guys. I love it. And it's just everything from here. Full spoilers, all right? I'm talking spoilers. So if you haven't finished Into the Maze, if you haven't finished any of the story events or things that have been released in Global up to this point, click off now because I won't hold back on spoiling things. Okay, I gave you a shot. Where do I start? It's so good. So, I think the biggest question a lot of maybe players had with the story is when you play through the game at the beginning and you do that first side story. Like, if you did that first side story after finishing all of the main story, you may not have been as many questions, but you probably still had some questions. And then if you did it before finishing chapter 5 of the story, you definitely had questions. End of the Maze picks up from there a little bit and then still leaves more questions, mind you. Like, there are still questions there. But it shows that once, Hilda leaves the Fenrir division to their fate to do whatever she does, though I think it does imply that she does go fight that Category 6 monster because it does show up and it is injured. Then Yubin takes Suyon and the rest of Fenrir Division and they book it and they meet up with Maze Division. And also, just real quick, say what you want about the gear and the gear state of this game. The fact that the Maze gear is probably like almost unequivocally the best gear in the game, I have no complaints with it anymore. The Maze Division, Ludmilla, Alex, put respect on their names, and by making that gear so good, like, that's respect. That'll start a whole different argument and debate, I guess. But they meet up with Maze Division, they try to survive the scenario and get out. The administration has an escape plan for them to take critical people, or critical personnel, critical material, and escape to a parallel world, which we know those exist. We know the Counterside is worlds that have fallen to corruption, to the Cliffoth energy or factor in the Demon Lords. Which is another thing. The number of characters that knew about the Demon Lords at that point in time, like in the past, caught me off guard. Yubin knew about them. It's not very clear if Lysion knew about them. Ludmilla and Alex seem to know about them. So I'm wondering if it was just the commanders and adjutants that were directly for the administration were the ones given this information. We know Hilda knows about them. We still don't really know what Hilda's deal with them is, or how she exactly fits in, because she's not related. Like, I don't think there's any direct connection with us I don't think we've seen anything to link her to us, the head administrator. So she's something of her own, I think, but we definitely made use of her, clearly, because we had the same goal at the end of the day. I lost my train of thought. I'm going all over the place. It's so good. The Awakened Lee Suyan tease very much became a real thing. That was teased in Act 1 of the story, definitely came true in Act 2 of the story. That was fantastic. Loved that. I was kind of, as it was progressing, I'm like, oh, we're not going to see it. Bummer. And then we saw it, and that was fantastic. Loved that. Every second of that was great. Okay, so yeah. So they're trying to get their crew onto one of these arcs to escape. And then one of the demon lords show up. The one, that shows up at the end of Chapter 5, Rosaria. Or her actual name's Beelzebub, I think. I'm pretty sure we're going to get an awakened version of every unit that's a demon lord. In demon lord power mode, maybe? Maybe they'll make a new unit for it. I hope they don't do something like that. No more extraness to the gacha, please. But Rosaria shows up, and all of her crew is aware she's a demon lord. That confirmed that for us, and was helping her. They were fighting against Fenrir and May's division, and then it's kind of left off with what happens in the past. It doesn't really clarify what happens in the past, so we still have this blank space of what happened to Yuben between then and this confrontation with the Demon Lord and present time, I guess. Like, I mean, we know where Suyan is in present time. We know a little bit of what happened to her a bit pre-present time when she split ways with Yuben. A little bit. We still don't know how they ended up where they ended up. But I know, I guess we did get a little bit of an answer. So they're all fighting in the past. We're going back to the past here. They're all fighting the Demon Lord, trying to buy time for the others to escape, and then the Ark jumps. It does its, jump like into the Counterside or whatever. Well, what it's supposed to be doing is leaping into the space-time continuum, essentially, to travel to a new world, to jump between parallel worlds. However, the story does reveal in Act 2 that we, the Supreme Administrator, at the last second changed the orders. And uses the arcs to basically ram into points on the Counterside and shut off the flow of the Cliffoth factor and energy to the Demon Lords, essentially putting them to sleep. And, what ended up buying us the 20 years of time between the administration failure and the present. And as we know, Ludmilla got sucked in with the arc that had the Maze Division on it. Yuben and Suyon did not, so I guess they just exited the Counterside from there. I guess that's what happened. It doesn't really say, as far as I know. Maybe it said it in the side story or in the main story, and it just didn't make a lot of sense at the time, and if I went back and read it, it would probably make sense now. And then you get the events of present. Stuff happening that's actually happening in the end of the maze. It's not filling in more backstory and story. And that's... we learn about... this is where we get, I guess, our real introduction to doppelgangers. A type of demon CO. So you have the demon COs that are counters that became corrupted objects. So Ministra, Spira, I assume the ones that are, well, one of them that does show up towards the end of the Maze, but that are Danger Close bosses. I mean, they share a model with Ministra, so I wonder if that. I think that means they're the same thing. They're that type of corrupted object, demon type corrupted object. And then doppelgangers are another type of corrupted object that are basically shadows, mimicries of an actual person who try to consume the original person to become complete, well, demon corrupted objects, complete empty entities. So that was an interesting concept to see and learn about. And then we, find out later that shadows and demon type corrupted objects are like the direct underlings of one of the demon lords. And we got the name drop for that demon lord, though I don't remember it. I think it was Belphegor. And that was cool. And he was the one who was close to waking up. And then we know because of the Replacer events in the main story that the demon lords have slowly started to wake up. Though that does throw into question a couple things. If this is... Well, I guess it throws into question the exact timeline of some things. So we can look at it as they've been waking up a little bit prior. And it's been kind of trickling. And they're slowly waking up. And then it was expedited with the Replacer event. And I think that's what happened. So I think the events of our last two events, the Witch's Legacy and Old Fear, happened a little bit prior to the main story. I mean, we can almost guarantee that Old Fear takes place prior to the Witch's Legacy because of characters that show up. And, in Old Fear, we learn about one of the demon lords, the Lake of Knowledge, insert long Eldritch Horror name here that I can't remember. I think I said it perfectly. Which a piece of them is using Adele as a host, but has interest in Regina. There have been teases on the Korean side that they're going to be getting an awakened Regina sometime before the end of the year, in a continuation to the Old Fear stories. So maybe we'll see more of that. Maybe awakened Regina is that demon lord in its full power to some extent, or that demon lord fragment combining with Regina, who is the perfect host. The actual main body for that demon lord is under seal and key by the Pridwin Institution. So there's that. So we have one demon lord there, and then the Witch's Legacy introduces us to the original doll, Serapel, who is another of the demon lords. I'm trying to figure out how Serapel brings about the ruin to worlds. Like, that wasn't very clear. Maybe it just went over my head. Because she's, like, super masochistic, and I don't see what she's doing to really bring about the end of the world, but clearly she did. The Strega members, or, well, I guess the two head members of Strega are exiles, or people from a world that has fallen and found their way to our current world. And apparently on a timer. And I'm not 100% that if there's not a way to fix that. Because exiles, as we learned from the Shi-Young and Karen side story, exiles have a limited amount of time to live outside of their own world, in which they will die. They just will expire. And then after the end of the maze, I'm not entirely convinced that we can't come up with a way to fix that. And we probably do for story reasons down the line, I'm sure, right? I'd be surprised if we didn't come up with a way to fix that. Though, apparently, if, in the case of Yuna, have a child in that world, that child is fine. I guess Yuna's technically her grandchild, so maybe that's where she's fine. But I mean, I don't know. Interesting thought. But I'm curious about that aspect, how it works. I want to know, where does it all, like, piece together? What do... I don't know. I'm curious. And that's kind of a minor detail, I guess, all things considered. But it makes me think there is a way for exiles to stay. And I'm getting off track from Into the Maze, just with all the other things going in my head, trying to put pieces together, and... Oh, man. So what did I leave off with Into the Maze? Into the Maze, so yeah. So we have what appears to be Ludmilla shows up to get help to rescue Alex and the rest of May's division, who are basically in like a cryostasis locked in the Ark. So Lee Soo-yeon and us, the administrator, go to help. Just the two of them. Clearly all the help they need. That was meant as a joke. It actually, that's actually kind of true. It really is all the help they need, because a lot of power between the two of us. I'm not completely convinced we're as powerless as we let on to. Like, obviously, besides our technological prowess and authority and all that stuff, I feel like we have some kind of power or something, right? Am I the only one who thinks that? I digress. So they show up to try and help, but when they get to the actual Ark itself is when it's big dun dun dun. The Ludmilla that was with us the entire time was actually Ludmilla's doppelganger, and actual Ludmilla was here protecting the ship the entire time. Get some more fighting and stuff happening, to then discover the Ludmilla that was actually protecting the ship the entire time. The actual Ludmilla isn't even the actual Ludmilla. It's a doppelganger that basically thought it was actually Ludmilla. And this is because, like, from the moment of its inception and in creation, like when it popped into existence, it was immediately attacked by Ludmilla, the actual Ludmilla, and it made this Ludmilla, with all of its fresh memories of the actual Ludmilla's life or whatever, it just made it instinctively think, it's the real one, this is the shadow attacking me. And then it doesn't really say what happened. Obviously she survived, but it doesn't state what happened to that Ludmilla, the original Ludmilla, the actual Ludmilla. I would be led to believe that this is a Ludmilla that was very, very worn down from protecting the ship from corrupted objects, was facing corruption syndrome or whatever it was called, corruption disease herself, and was weak, hurt, tired, brink of death as it was, had been protecting close to 5-ish, or I wouldn't say 5 years, probably close to a year at max. I can imagine she pulled herself off, and the shadow just absorbed her in that weakened state, trying to get away and survive, because she just probably died. So she becomes a complete demon type shadow corrupted object there, but isn't aware of it. She thinks she's the real thing, and just the only thing she thinks about when she's safe, and when she's safe and no longer in immediate danger, is she's got to protect the ship, she's got to protect Alex, she's got to protect her crew, and keep them safe until there's a way to wake them up. And that just becomes her sole goal, and she does it for 20 years, or well, a little less than 20 years, because the actual Ludmilla probably did for about a year, so 19 years, I guess, or something like that, give or take the numbers I'm guesstimating here. And that then brings us to present day, where Soo-yeon's like, yeah, you're a shadow, goes to kill her, but is stopped by Alex and the rest of the Maze division, who has just been woken from their cryostasis while this conversation is happening. And I guess I kind of jumped ahead, because a little bit before that we find out that it's too late for all the people in cryostasis. The ship could only do so much. They're suffering from corruption syndrome themselves, and will only have, a short amount of time after coming out of cryostasis to live before they die and become corrupted objects themselves. So, back to where I was, and they're all like, no, don't just kill her, let's go out fighting, let's take out, these doppelgangers and stuff that are there. I mean, we're all about to die anyways. And they're like, and she might as well be, our commander. She's the one who spent all this time protecting us, just like our commander would. So, I mean, what's the difference, right? So, with this doppelganger, Ludmilla, and then the rest of the now very quickly dying Maze Division, they go off and fight the other doppelganger army of themselves. Ultimately end up winning. You get the demon corrupted object who is a Danger Close boss that I can't remember the name of, show up, and she's like, I am a corrupted object, level 5, the ones you humans fear or whatever. Waken Lee Soo-yun comes in there, wipes the floor with her, is like, you ain't nothing. Very happy about that scene. That was cool. And I love the line of, I bet I could actually fight the master in this, that Lee Soo-yun says. And then it just made me think of the fact that Hilde in her awakened form, wiped the floor with Replacer Queen, who was compared to a Type 5 corrupted object or borderline types, or level 6. And Hilde's like, I'm not even using all of my power. I'm like using a fraction of it still, even in my awakened state, even in this state. It's just like, Hilde, how strong are you? So many questions around Hilde, right? More questions with Hilde than there is Shiyun, and Shiyun is like one of the shadiest looking characters in the series. I love Shiyun. Anyways, so get this series. They win all the fights, and then it's just like all of the maze, like after the fighting's over, they don't really have time to celebrate. They're slowly, starting to fall one by one and die and begin to shift, right? And that's when the administrator comes up, and him and Lee Soo-yun are standing there, the Ludmilla's standing there, and it's just like it's really impressive to their willpower that even as they're dying, they're not making a ruckus as somebody normally would when they fall to corruption syndrome. They're just peacefully passing away. And we get reprimanded for like, hey, maybe that's an insensitive comment not to make when she's watching all of her people die. And he's like, oh well, I was saying that I can save them. And it just becomes a double like whammy of, wait, you can save them? Where was this before? And he's like, something I recently came up with, not long before coming to the Counterside here, and I didn't have a way for it to work, but with certain information, now known, it could work. And, so this is one reason I think we can totally save exiles from decaying. And so what he basically does, or what we basically do, is we take the corruption that's built up in the bodies of the maze divisions of Alex and all of the other soldiers, and we can and you can transfer it to someone else. That's the operation he has that we come up with to save them. Of course, if that person dies, the corruption will just flow back to its original intender or owner. And, now this other person has all this corruption built up in them, and it'll cause you to go mad or, intense agonizing pain. But we have a corrupted object right here, so it's like there's no real better chance of someone being able to take this procedure. And so we end up transferring all of the corruption of the maze division, of the entire maze division. We take all of that corrupted energy each of them have accumulated and transfer it to this Ludmilla, this now complete demon type CEO Ludmilla, who I believe inadvertently absorbed her original at her inception, and then absorbed the other doppelganger that split off of her in their final climactic battle. And so we transfer all of that to them, and now they're alive as long as this Ludmilla is alive and sane, essentially. And then we go back to the normal side. She passes out. We go back to the normal side. She comes to, and we get this really cool scene where it's like, whatever you want to do, you know, if you want to be a mercenary, Suyan can introduce you, I can do this, or whatever. And Ludmilla's like, oh, I want to keep working for you. I'm going to keep working for you. Bada bing, boys. That's how we get to recruit her. Anyways, joke aside, because technically we don't have her even, but I'm getting into that. That's also, she's like, well, where's the rest of May's division? And he's like, well, there was an interesting side effect. On top of you becoming this super powerful demon-type CO, congratulations, by the way, almost like how we word that, which is kind of funny, you developed some powers that were unexpected, including, like, basically this, like, extra world inside your shadow. And because of the link between you and the Maze division, because you hold their corruption, they can just chill in your shadow now. So Ludmilla is literally a walking army. Like, she is Shinwoo from Solo Leveling. That's exactly, she's the main protagonist of Solo Leveling now, Korean and everything. she has the entire Maze division, like, battalion, like, in her shadow. And you get this really cool scene where she's smiling and saluting us, and then she's like, half of her body is like Spira, like demon type corrupted object. So I'm really excited to see if we ever get an awakened Ludmilla that is this model, because Ludmilla was already a very, very powerful counter, and now we have a very, very powerful demon type corrupted object with that as a base. She's got to be like borderline category 5, if not in 5, borderlining 6 even, right? Like, there's a lot of power in her, and she works for us, so cool deal. Yeah, I really hope we do get that as a unit eventually, because it would be a shame to see that model just kind of not be used. It was really cool seeing it. And then we had this really, really good scene between us and Lee Suyan looking out over the city, in which she's like, basically there's a little bit there that said it shows why the Shadow Palace is now available in the game, which is cool. Lore reason there. Love that. She's just like, and also, you know, Hilda's a lot older than you know, than it lets on. We're a lot older than it lets on. She's like, what happens this time if we mess up? You just move on to the next world like you did every time before. And we have the line of, well, the arcs are no longer operational. I used them, all their energy, trying to seal the demon lords in that last attempt. If I fail this time, there is no next time. Which obviously, you know, that's not surprising, right? Like, this is the story we're playing through. It's gonna have its conclusion. I doubt it's going to be a bad conclusion. Like, I doubt we're gonna lose at the end of the day. People might die if when the story sees its end, but I mean, I doubt it'll be like a bad ending, so, you know. But there's this, man, it's so interesting to think, just all these little different story bits and tidbits coming together. Yeah, I love it. I love it all so much. I love the connection that we have with Lee Soo-yeon here, because that was a very entertaining dynamic, seeing us fleshed out a bit more of that dynamic we have. It makes me giving her that lifetime contract all the more meaningful in my book. Loved it. I already loved her, so that was just better. But it's just, it was such a good story, and it answered questions, very good questions, and explained things, and then by the same token set up things. Like, the term that we still don't know is Rosaria refers to Na Yubin as the antagonist of this world, of our current world. What does that mean? We know, we know Na Yubin's technically an antagonist to us in the main story, but no, it's a term it's a title she gives him. What does that mean? What is, like, wait? I was thinking before it was revealed that they didn't jump to another world, and they are in fact the same world, that it meant Na Yubin was the antagonist of the previous world, and Shiyun might have been the antagonist of our current world. That's why he's so strong. No, that was me just looking into things too much, so ignore that. It's Na Yubin is the antagonist of this world. Shiyun is strong because Shiyun is strong. The same reason Lee Soo-yeon's strong. So there's nothing special about that. They're just strong. Cool. There's a little bit more to that, but I digress. What does that mean? That's the biggest question I've taken out of Into the Maze. What does that term mean? My idea is that the antagonist of a world is a candidate for becoming a demon lord. So whenever a world falls to the counterside, falls to the corruption, that world produces another demon lord, and the antagonist of that world is the one who becomes it. That's my wild potshot theory about what that term means, but we don't really know. And it was really exciting and fulfilling to get all these answers and things explained and have an amazing story with a, kind of neatly tied conclusion that also leads into other things, but still have questions to ask. And it's really good, that when you play through these stories are saved in your collection, so you can go back and watch them at any time. Very, very good. And they do eventually rerun events, so if you didn't get to experience it, you can experience it then. Though it does make it when those story points become relevant in the main story. What do you do then? I hope that's addressed, maybe? Like, I don't know what they do about it. Because there are certain story points from events that seem somewhat pertinent to the main story. You could get by without the Old Fear or Witch's Legacy story points. There's points in this one that I think are relevant, right? So maybe it's just pretty crucial that you do play through this event for the main story down the road. Maybe. It's hard to say. But with that's the video. Honestly, I just really, really loved this story. Really, really enjoyed it, and really just wanted to ramble and talk about it for like over 30 minutes. What the heck? It was just so good. And all the more I implore people to check this game out, to play the story, enjoy the story, play the events, enjoy the story events. Just enjoy this game. It's so good. I enjoy it so much. And I think anybody that's willing to give it a shot will enjoy the story and, enjoy the game. I implore that y'all do go read the story and enjoy the story. But yeah, That's that's the video. I just really wanted to talk and ramble about the lore of this game and the story of this game. That's really good, and I love it because I finished the end of the maze, and it's just I'm just formulating and thinking so many things, and I needed somebody to talk to about it, and I couldn't stream it to talk to people about it, so why not just record my thoughts and then throw it up as a video on YouTube? To anybody that sat through all of this, thank you. Thank you. Let me use this as an opportunity to thank all of the people coming through and watching the videos and liking the videos and the new subscribers, and I really do appreciate all of you. Like, I just did this for fun. I've just been doing this to, you know, as an outlet to talk and do stuff with this game I really enjoy. And yeah, I've had people who have appreciated it, so I appreciate all of you. So thank you for giving a little bit of worth to me just enjoying this game more. Because, yeah. So thank you everybody for watching. If you actually watched all the way through this, let me know what you thought of End of the Maze. Let me know any wild crackpot theories you may have. Yeah, use the comment section below this video to talk lore with people, I guess. Keep it civil. Keep it civil. Alright? And, you know, in respect to global players, don't spoil anything that's not been released in global at this point. So, for any C players that watch the video, would appreciate that. I would appreciate that. Yeah. And thank you again. And we'll see you all in the next one, guys. Peace.